Hey guys, how's it going? Danconia here, and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup, and it's time for another double header. Yes, it's that time. It's the LAs. We're starting off with the LA Valiant, and it's been a really interesting off-season for that lot, believe me. So, they've lost two of their players to the newcomer in the league, that is the Paris Eternal. That is Finzi, which is not much of a loss, but they've also lost Soon. Remember? Soon! Yeah, they've lost him to the Paris Eternal, which is not all that surprising considering Soon is French and the Paris Eternal have emphasized a European French roster, but that's a very big loss for the LA Valiant. Very big loss. And I'm interested to see how they respond to that, considering I don't think anyone can argue that Soon was their best DPS last year. Without a doubt. So LA Valiant, not much else has changed apart from two signings. We still have the roster of Agilities, Space, Fate, Kareev, Bunny, Custer and KSF. KSF and Custer was signed midway through the season last season. Custer was a swap deal with the Dallas Fuel, with Unco going in the other direction. But we have two new players for the LA Valiant. Two new South Korean players, I should emphasize. One of them you all have heard of before. I'm going to start off with the unknown, and that is Izayaki. Now, Izayaki has actually been affiliated with the LA Valiant for a while, since actually the start of Stage 3. Who would have known he hasn't actually played for the team? But he is a support player, and he is a backup to LA Valiant's current lineup of Custer, Kareev, and Kareev. So, Kareev can flex to that DPS slot, making Izayaki a vital component of this Valiant team, because for some reason if they needed Kareev to play DPS, they need another support to go alongside Custer. So Izayaki would fill that spot. We are yet to see Izayaki in the Overwatch League, even though he's been with the Valiant since Stage 3. A lot of you probably haven't even heard of him. So it is rather interesting to see that. Now, another move, and this is to do with the other players, that Numnoct also left the Los Angeles Valiant. He didn't really get any playtime with Valiant. He's now playing for the British Hurricane and Contenders. To replace Numnoct, they have brought in Kuki. Now, Kuki you might recognise. He played for the Seoul Dynasty last season. Another person to be a casualty of Seoul Dynasty's inaugural season. Again, I don't believe he was Seoul's main tank. And he is getting to an age now. He's 27, Kuki. A very good main tank, but I believe he'll be a backup. So, Valiant mainly have recruited to their back door, if you see what I mean. KSF was also a rather late signing for the Valiant in last year, midway through the season. KSF also didn't really feature much during last year. So, here's my thing. You have KSF, Agility's very good, but Agility's had its problems last year. Wasn't as consistent as perhaps you would want him to be. Bunny, I thought was a fantastic signing for Valiant last year from the Seoul Dynasty. He's a very good tracer player. But I don't see a replacement for Soon in this roster. I only see a replacement for Numlocked, which was a player really that was not a priority to replace. I would have personally got in a long-range hit scan player to replace Soon. Now, yes, you can say KSF likes his McCree, but is he as good as Soon? No, because he could have proved that last year and he didn't. So, that draws me to the conclusion that the Los Angeles Valiant have actually got worse during this off-season. And that is not good. If there is one thing that the current team, the original teams of the Overwatch League can't do, is get worse. Because the teams around you are getting better. You've also got new teams coming into the league, a lot of which are going to be better. So, you are going to slip down the league. And this is the same worry I have with the Boston Uprising. This team, don't get me wrong, is better than Boston on paper. I think Boston are going to have a bad season. And I mean a bad season for Boston. Valiant, I think, will struggle to reach the playoffs. I could see them finishing just outside the playoffs. Simply because they have not added enough to their roster. Either that, or they need to sign someone in the mid-season transfer window. I don't see enough of an improvement in this roster to improve on what they did last season. And I don't see enough in this roster to maintain where they were last season. Because Valiant weren't the most consistent of teams. I believe, and this will be controversial to a lot of Valiant fans, they did finish second last season, but I think they could slip quite away. I think they have slipped behind their LA opponents in Gladiators, because I think Gladiators have made some good improvements. I think Valiant are going to struggle. I could see them losing to people like the Dallas Fuel and things like that. And with 20 teams in the league this year, I don't see them beating teams like Atlanta Reign and Toronto Defiant, Hangzhou Spark. I don't see them beating these new teams. That's already you 3-4 places down if you include the Gladiators being improved. That's you 4 places down on what you were last season. That puts you already in 6th, which was the borderline last season of the playoff places. And this season, the way it works, that means if you go below that, you're going into another playoff phase, which means more games to play. I believe, ultimately, the Valiant will finish in a playoff, but I think they will finish in the 7th to 12th playoff, where I would expect to see possibly Houston, San Francisco, possibly Shanghai, and teams like that, perhaps Dallas. I don't believe they are good enough to make the top 6, because that has got a lot harder this season coming with the new teams in there and some of the improvements the other teams have made. It's going to be very competitive, I believe, and I think Valiant have been surpassed by quite a few teams. And I'm sorry about that, Valiant, but that is the God's honest truth. Nothing else much has changed for Valiant aside from that. Obviously, during the season, Silk Thread transferred to the Gladiators. Yeah, I'm really surprised that the Valiant didn't add to their roster when they lost Soon. That seems really, really weird. And if I was a Valiant fan, honestly, I'd be fuming. We've lost our best DPS and we haven't replaced him with anyone. We replaced him with a tank. If anything. Honestly, you don't... If there's any position of your team that you don't need a backup, you never... That's a difficult thing to say. And the whole point of... And that's another thing as well. Valiant don't have a feeder team. They don't have an academy contenders team, so they can't have that two-way player. And I think that's going to be very valuable for teams this season. And that's kind of what I like about fusions at the Boston Uprising. I would make my two-way player, if I've got an academy team, I would make my two-way player a main tank. I would then say that the academy team is to play that main tank week in, week out. Then, if my main tank in the Overwatch League gets injured, I would bring in the contenders main tank. And they would already be fresh from playing in contenders. I think that is incredibly valuable. Unfortunately, Valiant don't have that opportunity. because they don't have a contenders team, unlike gladiators. So they've ended up bringing in a backup tank. Yes, they have 3 DPS, but I think I would have rather seen a straight replacement for Soon, because I don't think anyone on this roster can live up to Soon right now, unless Agilities really pulls his thing together. And I have a big problem with Agilities is the fact that I think he's very inconsistent. We all know about the incident outside the restaurant. Talking to in the car. Remember that? Yeah. I worry for Valiant this season. I don't think it'll be an absolutely horrid season, but I think you will be worse off than you were last season. Simply because I don't think improvements have been made and I don't think replacements have been brought in where they needed to be. But that's enough of me. That's enough of me putting the downers on the LA Valiant. I'd like to be proved wrong. It's still a very good roster, don't get me wrong. Custer's very good. Bunny, Kareve, Fate, Space, Agilities. They're good players, but are they good enough? I think the tank line and the support line for the Valiant may be let down by their DPS. Unless KSF or Agility step up. So, that is the roundup for Valiant. The next one will be Gladiators. And then we're moving on. Oh, and then we're moving on, boys, because then it's NYXL after that. And boy, have we got some stuff to talk about there. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.